Hello. Hi, we're about to start. Can I just extend a thank you for everyone tuning up today and taking time out to attend the Improving Young People's Mental Health Series in Pembrokeshire Community Forum. Today we're going to be discussing about how we can come together as a community to share our stories and to really eke out between us all where we can create strategy to improve and supplement services for young people in Pembrokeshire. The format of this event is going to start with introductions of the panel. We'll go from left to right. We'll introduce ourselves, say what our connection, where we're coming from, and what services stakeholders up here we're providing for the community. We've done a consultation process with the public on Facebook and Twitter, and from that we've had 6 key areas that have been raised. The first area we're going to discuss is preventative healthcare in and around the community and schools, the reduction in local authority services around mental health, including the budget for Families First and the Families First grant. The third will be the schools safeguarding, the counselling service at the schools, which hopefully some of the people here can talk about. And then the fourth area will be the primary health care. The fifth will be the referral services to the CAMS service, the Child and Adult Mental Health Service. And the last will be the actual service provision of CAMS. Obviously, that's a lot to get through in this short amount of time. We'll do the best we can, but today we've also provided you with feedback forms. The purpose of those forms is that if we can't get to your question or your story, please feel free to write it down. We'll collect those at the end and we'll review them and then send the questions on to the relevant people who can answer those questions. Some of the questions raised today, unfortunately, Hilva Health Board and the local authority couldn't be available to sit on the panel today, but we will make sure that we can forward your questions to them and hopefully get an answer sooner rather than later. Okay, so let me introduce the panel. We have Maxine Thomas, who is Head of Safeguarding and Learning Services at Pembrokeshire College. We have Ms Hayley Wood from Age Cymru, and she is a Communities Together coordinator, so she'll be representing the third sector on the panel today. Then we have Ms Sian Swales at the end. She is the Head of Safeguarding and Head of Lower School at a school, Greenhill School. And thankfully, at last minute, Mrs Janet Kingston has been available to sit on the panel today, and Mrs Janet Kingston will be representing Greenhill School as the head teacher at Greenhill School. Can I just also state before we start, we'll allow the panel to talk, give a brief introduction, as I said. I will introduce the theme and allow the panel to say what they want to give opening remarks about the theme, and then we'll be opening up for questions. If you could raise your hand politely, and if you want to make a comment or raise a question for the panel. As I said, we may not be able to answer, but we will direct your question and make a note of it. Also, we'll be live streaming this today, so we don't know yet whether this will go up on a social media site, but we will certainly be creating a summary which we will pass to everyone who has left their contact details at the back of the room and on your feedback forms. Okay, so if I start now with the introductions, as I said, I'll start from left to right. So the first person will be Ms Hayley Wood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I work for Age Cymru Pembrokeshire, and I'm the Community Ages Together coordinator, and my role is funded through the Big Lottery Fund, and also we are part of the wider portfolio on more working towards co-production. What that means is that individuals and communities have a say and co-design services that are needed within their community, as well as for individuals. we've been currently working on transport issues within the county, and recently there was a conference held about the issues with transport, and also I've been working quite a lot with people who have mental health issues, and they work with them to engage them in recent consultations on mental health services and how those are changing in the future. And that's really, so my role is getting people to have a say and work with the authorities so that services can be co-designed with service users.
Good afternoon. My name is Maxine Thomas. I'm Head of Safeguarding and Learner Services at Pembrokeshire College. My roles and responsibilities including provide counselling services for college students, the management of the school nurse service within the college, and ensuring that our learners are supported with any needs. I work across safeguarding in education, particularly within the FE sector, and I'm here to be asked to sit on the panel today to take any questions if there are any with regards to an FE perspective.
Hi, a short introduction from me. My name is Matthew Watkins. I didn't do this at the start. My name is Matthew Watkins. I'm originally from Pembrokeshire, Saundersfoot. I attended Miss Kingston School and then went to Aberystwyth and Cardiff, where I studied law. I was then trained in London and was called to Lincoln's Inn at the bar in 2014. Since then, I've worked for the Serious Fraud Office and a local authority. And I'm about to begin a PhD at Southampton University, studying the law of consent, capacity and risk disclosure in medical law. Thanks.
Thank you, Mandy. Hi, my name is Janet Kingston. I'm head teacher at Ascot Greenhill School in Tenby. Speaking today really about Greenhill School, but I suppose what I do is the same as most head teachers. We all work closely with the authority, with the external agencies of health. We all have school nurses attached to each other, every school has a school nurse attached. We work closely with all kinds of external agencies, from social services down to Sandy Bears, and every head teacher is the head of safeguarding in their school. But every school will then have a designated safeguarding officer, safeguarding and child protection officer. At Greenhill, we're extremely lucky. I have two superb safeguarding officers, one of whom is Charles Swales, who I'll introduce in a moment, and they do an absolutely fantastic job. I know that Greenhill, we have pupils at the heart of everything we do. Pupil well-being is absolutely paramount. And it's not just about results, it's about young people's well-being, young people having a place in the world. So as well as formal curriculum, we also offer extracurricular provision in a number of ways. But I'll pass over to Sean, the safeguarding officer, to talk a little bit about what we do.
My name is Sean Swales and I'm head of lower school at Greenhill, and I'm also safeguarding officer. My role within the school is to oversee year 6, 7, 8 and 9, and my colleague oversees 10, 11 and then the 6th form, 12 and 13. It's important to us to track and monitor pupils carefully. We work very closely with our primary feeder schools to ensure we identify vulnerable learners as they come into us. And we work with our teaching staff and pupils alike to identify, support and monitor vulnerable pupils within our year group. We work closely with external agencies, so council, local authority, school nurse, counselling service and so on, to identify these pupils and ensure that they are supported in the relevant way. We also work closely with families, parents in particular, to extend those services beyond the remit of the school and ensure that these pupils are supported in that capacity as well.
Thank you very much. So we'll begin with our first area of the topic, which is preventative healthcare. So one of the questions that we've been provided through our consultation process was really around what strategies could be put in place in schools, in the community, by charities, and if any of the audience from the local authority and health board want to raise questions or comments on this, we welcome that, about how we identify young people who are vulnerable to mental health problems, who are experiencing mental health problems and may not be talking about them. So that's sort of the first area. So does anyone want to particularly come in on this one? I might going to force that upon someone. Should we? Do you want to? So it is talking about how can we identify pupils or students or young people, either in the schools or the community, who may be vulnerable to mental health problems. Yeah.
One thing that we do in schools is, in September of every school year, we do a survey called the PASS survey, and that's pupil attitude to self and school. So a school will have formed ahead of year very clear data on how a pupil feels about themselves, how they feel as a learner, and what their attitude to school is. That's one source of data. The other, as Sian has mentioned, is we have very strong links with our feeder schools. We have a dedicated head of Year 7 who works exclusively with Year 6, Year 7. She gets to know the pupils from the teachers and from a family perspective, so that some vulnerable youngsters on entry to Greenhill will go into what we call nurture. And nurture is really touching base. They have a dedicated area, they have a dedicated LSA, they go there every morning, they literally do touch base. Someone checks, how were things last night? Did you get your homework done? How were things this morning? How are you feeling? Make sure they have breakfast. If they're feeling wobbly about any kind of situation, it's a support centre. They might feel, I really don't want to do PE today because we haven't got my PE kit washed, in which case they will do alternative work, and then we help to sort out what that problem was. We have very good heads of year who work very closely with the students. They know each other really well. Sian?
Okay, so if I refer back to the primary schools, we work very closely with our family and feeder primary schools, and we're talking here specifically about those little ones coming in to us. Moving from a primary to a secondary school is an important time of change for our pupils and offers triggers anxiety amongst them. So we monitor that very carefully. They're identified by their primary school teachers as potentially finding things difficult at secondary level and perhaps particularly anxious about moving on. Today we have a cohort of pupils in school, and we had another cohort in earlier this week, pupils that perhaps wouldn't cope well with the change. Again, we monitor and track these pupils carefully. They're enrolled as part of our nurture provision. They're not always part of our nurture provision. Where they grow in independence and confidence, then they're allowed to maintain tutor groups and go back to mainstream. We pride ourselves on supporting our pupils. All pupils feel supported and valued within the school. I would like to think that. As we've said, that we have a strong team of heads of year, and they in turn manage a team of tutors. The tutor time within our school is really important. That's a very strong link for our pupils. So they have a tutor group that they attend every day, and the relationship between the form and that tutor is very strong. Where there are concerns identified within that form, it is always passed to the head of year and to myself. I manage the team of heads of year along with another colleague. We are nominated safeguarding officers within the school. All safeguarding concerns come to us so that we can oversee everything that's going on within the school, and we have strong working links with external agencies to support our pupils. Where young learners are identified as vulnerable or potentially a cause for concern, they're tracked and monitored very carefully. Again, we have a very strong attendance officer within the school, and with these vulnerable learners, it's important that we know where they are at all times, so we can identify risks or identify triggers for perhaps behaviour concerns, attendance concerns, and so on. And so these learners are monitored carefully from one lesson to another. As you know, in a secondary school, it's very different to a primary school. They're not taught in one classroom, so they move around the school all day, and the movement between lessons can often be a cause for concern for us. So they're tracked and monitored very carefully. Where they don't attend a lesson, that's flagged up immediately with the attendance officer, and safeguarding alerts are put in place.
So, okay, well, actually we'll start with questions and then we'll try to create a dynamic sort of conversation between us and the audience. If you want to raise your hand if you've got a question, we'll go over here and then we'll go over to you.
Hello, I don't like speaking on the microphone. I'm a parent of a child at Pembroke School, and I suspect everybody here will know that Pembroke School has had some particular difficulties with pupils this year and also a couple of years ago. My question to the two ladies, sorry, I can't remember your names. The provision you outlined sounds great. Are you able to tell me, is this a common policy throughout all of the schools? And if it is, can you also tell me how the school safeguarding and monitoring, how does that interact in terms of involving parents? Because my experience is that parents in our school are not involved at all. And I have a particular concern that even after the most recent incident at our school, there has been no communication whatsoever with parents. And I feel that if these issues are going to be, if things are going to be improved moving forwards, I cannot understand how parents cannot play a part, how it is that parents don't play a part in that. It's a school-parent partnership, it should be. And I feel very concerned going forward that is an area that needs to be very clearly addressed. Sorry, that was one week.
No, that's thank you. And also the next person is the gentleman over there in the white. Yeah, actually we'll wait for this question and then we'll answer, yeah.
There don't seem to be sufficient countless paper telephone numbers in the schools and outside the schools. Why is that?
Do you mind turning the microphone on or holding it up, please? Do you mind holding it? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
You can do that.
There don't seem to be
No, well, that's fine.
sufficient information available within the schools, i.e. the people that are vulnerable are normally very quiet and they don't mix and things like that. If there was phone numbers in all the halls in the schools, i.e. and outside, surely that would be something they might pick up a phone and ring somebody, whereas it wouldn't go to see anybody if there was somebody.
Okay, so obviously I can only speak from the Green Hill perspective. Involving parents, I'll pass that to Sean, because I think the reason we are here today is some of the things that Green Hill undertakes might well be recognised by others as good practice. I'm not sure of that, but what we do is just natural to our school. Working with parents, we pride ourselves on doing that, and what I'll do in a moment is pass to Charlotte Swales, and she can give some examples of where, as a school, we work very closely with some parents. Safeguarding, our staff are very, very clear that safeguarding is everybody's business. We have a number of signs and posters around the school and in the staff room reminding people of who the safeguarding officers are and that every concern should be passed on. Our PE staff are very alert to the fact, and if they notice any unusual marks or bruises or cuts, they will bring it straight to Sean or Kate, and we take every report we get very seriously. As far as the phone numbers are concerned, what we have at Green Hill is in the main area, we've got a sort of central corridor on which we've got the attendance officer, and opposite her office we have a whole wall which we call the safeguarding information. And what we have there for every pupil are pictures of ourselves and the heads of year and the nurse and the pastoral secretary and learning support, and they are literally photographs, and these are people who can help you with anything. So there's a visual guide there. We've also got the same phone numbers as we've got Childline, we've got NSPCC, we've got CAMS, we've got the Health Board, and it's also backed up with posters of support that we get from the Welsh Government. You know, if you're being bullied, you can try to phone this number. If you're concerned, you can phone this number. So there's a lot of information around our school for pupils. What we have on the school website as well is a dedicated, what we call a bully button. But it's an area, if a child doesn't want to approach an adult in school, they can go to the school website, click on the button, which allows them to email directly their head of year, and any concern can be raised that way. We call it the bully button, but it can be anything. We do a lot of safeguarding awareness with staff. All our staff are Tier 1 trained, and heads of year and Charlotte and Kate are trained to a higher level. And we do safeguarding as a topic in our assemblies, where we do promote the fact that any child can talk to any member of staff about any aspect, whether it's academic, whether it's social, and also that if you've got concerns about a friend or a friend's family, to come forward. And that is a system that works very well for us. I'll give the microphone to Sian Swales now to explain some of the work we do with parents.
Just coming back to your comment there and to what the head has just said there, we've developed our own safeguarding policies internally. We do what comes naturally to us and what we feel works for us. Other people have identified that as good practice. It's just what we do. In terms of working with parents, we value parents' input, but you appreciate that it isn't always appropriate to involve parents. Unfortunately, with some of our young learners, their concerns and anxieties might be centred around home life, so it isn't always a possibility. But where possible, and in most cases, we will involve parents at the very earliest stage. So, for example, if a child is self-harming or causing concern for us, then we will involve the parent. We have had instances where we've had joint meetings with parents and external agencies, and we have formed a safeguarding contract to ensure that child's safety or well-being. And again, that tracking and monitoring is really important. But parents play a strong role in the safeguarding of these vulnerable learners.
Yeah.
With regard to safeguarding training, all people in the third sector are offered T1 training, as well as community groups, and in some cases,
Just hold it closer to you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. In terms of safeguarding training, all third sector organisations who work with children and young people are offered from the council free training at Tier 1, and community groups, community councils, and also in some cases members of the public as well can access that training, just to let you know that.
Matthew, I have a question here.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll ask another question.
And then I have another question here.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I really need to ask this question. I'd like to know, were Pembroke School invited? And if they were invited, why they're not represented here today? Because I am being very impressed with what Tenby is saying, and I'd like to know why our head teacher is not here.
I can actually answer that question. We have sent out over 500 emails. We publicised online through social media, through Twitter. So, I mean, we've done everything we can to invite people. We personally invited representatives from Pembroke School. Unfortunately, they couldn't attend today. But you can, that's not for me to answer. If you want to direct your questions to them, obviously. Thank you.
Just on that note,
sorry.
PCC should also be here. I think it's disgraceful that they aren't here.
Yes,
And the health board should be here.
Yeah, if we want
Okay,
people to do
okay, sorry, we can't do calling out. So what you're going to have to do is wait and hold your hand up.
Sorry, the reason that Green Hill is here isn't because somebody else isn't. It's simply that Matthew was a pupil, Susanna was a pupil, and in some respects, it's what you do. You go back to the school you know, and you know, they know us as teachers, they know us as a school, and so in some respects, yes, they did come to talk to us. We aren't here because another school isn't, and it's simply we are representing schools in some respect through what we do at Green Hill. Now, if people hear what we do and like it, we're more than happy to share wider what we do.
Assurance that Pembroke School are doing this.
And I'm sure that we can have a conversation at the end if you want to have a conversation at the end. Sorry. Yeah, if you want to ask a question. Yeah.
With regards to the safeguarding issues, I mean, what sounds absolutely brilliant. The difficulty I have as a parent and as a trained professional who does a lot of safeguarding training, when my autistic child goes to a teacher, a member of staff, and said that I hit my husband hit somebody else has done it. Luckily, the relationship we've got with Pembrokeshire School is absolutely excellent. She's not in the unit, she's well supported in mainstream, and it was a sensible approach. I mean, I love the idea of for children to have childline, and there's got to be some safeguarding for parents.
Yes. I mean, sorry. And in some respects, that does come down to the heads of year and the heads of school knowing children. When I say we take every allegation seriously, we would never say to any child, don't be silly. We would bring them in, we would talk to them. I mean, I'm almost, out of context, I don't particularly want to do this story, but we had an example of a pupil a couple of months ago who walked past a teacher and said, say goodbye now, miss, you won't see me tomorrow. So everything went into action. Pupil pulled out welfare, and it turned out he meant we're playing against another school in football tonight. I think we're going to lose. So, so we do take that. So, in as much as we dealt with it seriously in school, but we always listen, even within context. So there are pupils. My son has autism, and sometimes there are pupils who can come up with some things. There are also pupils we know who will say things in order to make trouble. And we've had one of those recently. But we do sit every child down. Do listen to their story, do take it seriously, do look into it, and in the case of the ones who were doing it maliciously, we made it very clear how serious it is, and that every allegation is taken seriously as an allegation, but we deal with each one appropriately, and that is through our knowledge of the pupils, working with the families, working with nurture, and the work that we have done. So when I say we take everything seriously, we do, but it doesn't always result in a referral right up to the CATS team. Okay, if that helps.
Brilliant. Now, we've actually got people commenting online at the moment, so I want to bring someone in online. They've asked, obviously Green Hill is doing brilliant work and has learned lessons, but how long have these measures been in place, and have they actually noticed an improvement in these vulnerable people?
How long have they been in place? We've always done it. So.
Can I just say, we're constantly evolving and constantly developing. The measures that we're talking about now have been in place for many years, but we cannot sit and wait for things to happen. We continuously develop. We're always working with outside agencies, and it's those links with outside agencies and the support that comes in from those agencies, the links with the school nurse, strong links of communication within the school, with our teachers, with our pupils, and with our families, our parents, that help us to develop that. So it isn't a finished product and a model that we want to roll out to everybody else. We are continuously changing and evolving.
It works for us. It works for us. Matthew.
Okay, right.
This gentleman just has a really quick.
Okay, well, we'll have him and then we've got one or two more. Go on.
Just to continue from what the gentleman over here said, a lot of us read the local paper, and in there was a list of people who should be up there, and that's what influenced some of us to come here. Where are these people? To be honest with you,
I mean,
I'm not here to listen to you promoting Tenley. I wanted the people up there who was listed in that paper, in the local paper, and that's why we've come along. Where are these people?
I appreciate that. That's something obviously we can have discussion about at the end. Unfortunately, the people that were listed weren't available to attend.
But why did they put their name in the local paper to say they were coming?
We released that press release because at that time those people were available.
Yes. 10 o'clock last night, we were told that they weren't coming.
Let's move on then. Okay, I've got a question online about how the community are dealing with culture, taboo culture around mental health in Pembrokeshire. Does Pembrokeshire College, do you work around dealing with talking about mental health or the community? Cameron?
The college, as I mentioned, has a full-time college nurse who is a member of the school nurse team. We have a tutorial programme linked to that, also a PSHE programme of which the nurse, the college counsellor are a full part and deliver awareness sessions to both students and also to staff.
The third sector relies heavily on funding from funding bodies such as the lottery, comic relief, etc. And I think in almost all cases, when a funding bid's written, that the charity has the emotional and well-being of the individuals at heart, really, in everything that they write. So most work is done around emotional and well-being of individuals.
Okay, I'd just like to go down the panel and maybe some people comment. Do you feel that there is a taboo about talking about mental health? In Pembrokeshire, is there a cultural taboo? Do you feel that there's a sort of get on with it attitude?
Yes.
That's a personal opinion. This is a personal opinion.
Again, Sean and I can only speak from the Green Hill context, and certainly not in Green Hill School. It was recently Mental Health Awareness Week, and we had 6 formers promoting it with trying to raise money with cake sales and awareness, and that's certainly on the school tannoy. So PSE lessons, we address it. We are very open in the assemblies, but again, that is our context. I can't speak for other schools within Pembrokeshire.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Can I ask a question? At what age do you read PSE?
Year 7.
Year 7. So and that's right the way across, and how many times a week? Because I find that interesting personally.
Well, it comes within the wellbeing. PSE is personal and social education. So the PSE lessons are there to help, the role of schools is to take young children, age 11, and turn them into young adults. And so there are so many issues that we do talk about as part of that programme. And one of those is your well-being as an adolescent, because adolescents go through all kinds of difficulties, socially, emotionally, all kinds of things. So there's no one distinct, we do it then, and we don't do it then. We also would adapt it depending on a specific need.
Okay, so PSE is talked twice a fortnight.
It's part of that programme, but there are many topics that are covered through PSE.
I personally had emails and lots of conversations with people over the last few weeks with parents that have children that are self-harming, children that are threatening suicide, children that are trying to commit suicide, and obviously everybody in Lisbon would be aware in this room that I have been affected by that personally. Is that tackled within your PSE, or is it something that you feel may need to be introduced?
It's very difficult to tackle it head on when you may have a vulnerable pupil within that classroom and make them feel uncomfortable. It's touched upon, it's possibly something that we need to look at in more detail. When we have learners who are identified as at risk, who are known self-harmers, and seek support, or are identified for support, then support, advice and guidance is given by ourselves and the school nurse and outside agencies.
Okay, and then also then, so,
Can you use your mic, please?
sorry, yes. Okay, sorry, I was also going to ask then that if,
Last question.
sorry, last question, okay, sorry, I talk too much. With regards to the PSE training of children, is that something that could be then brought out to the parents to have a parent partnership, so that the parents could perhaps learn what the children are learning?
It's something actually we've been looking at with governors, and it's on the agenda for a meeting we have on Monday, is making sure that parents are more aware of the topics that pupils are looking at. We won't go into the PSE topic, but actually that is something we can look at. More than we, as Sean said, we do adapt, we do change our curriculum, we do change our approach depending on what we are picking up as identified pupil need. If there were a large cohort where what we probably do, if we had a year group and we had a number of pupils who were self-harming, we probably wouldn't make that a whole year group issue, but we would maybe bring in an external agency, a health professional, to work with that identified group of pupils addressing their needs. At present, we do work with the school nurse, we bring in parents, we involve them with the GP. And it is adaptable, isn't it?
Yeah, we have external speakers for PSE regularly, so we work with the fire service, we work with the police. The nurse comes in and teaches PSE lessons, so it's something that can be shifted and adapted, and we tackle different topics at different stages. So for example, in year 9, stress management is part of the curriculum, they're about to enter GCSE, and how they manage stress and anxiety, you can often be part of that mental health. So,
Okay, that segues quite well into the, we're running quite behind, but it segues quite well into the next sort of area, talking about co-production and working with external agencies. There isn't, I appreciate that people on the panel can't talk a huge amount about the next topic, which is the reduction of local authority services and the cut in the Families First budget, which was published by the I think announced by the Western Telegraph in the last few months. As I understand it, and I'll just give a little introduction to this, as I understand it, £200,000 over the next year is being cut from the Families First budget, and the Communities First budget, the Families First budget are going to be merged. So, I mean, what I suppose, where you can talk about is what the school is going to do to, if these services are lost, to supplement those services, and if external agencies are needed, where are they going to look for those external agencies? Did you get that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'll be absolutely honest, I mean, it is a juggling act that schools need to do every year. The same as every other public service. There are cuts in all kinds of areas. There are cuts across services, and it is the role of the head teacher working with their team and working with their governing body to actually look at what we can do. Because if a service isn't available, then we have to look at what we can do to compensate. One thing we've done recently is our learning support assistants have been ELSA trained. So we've taken our learning support assistants and they started to be trained in emotional literacy. So we are expanding the capacity of the staff we've got to address issues that might have been covered previously by someone else. That's an example that, so not a great answer, sorry, apologies.
I'm sorry,
It's fine.
the microphone's at the back. I appreciate that, but I mean, we do want to obviously listen to the experts, and I will try to bring more people in. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I think one of the issues, and this is a real problem for this particular forum today, I think many people are here are very disappointed that only Greenhill School would have the courtesy to attend. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it. But one of the problems here is that whilst we're listening to Greenhill and we applaud everything that they're doing, clearly they are on the ball. We're not hearing from many of the other schools, and some schools are more affected than others. And I hear what is said about the budget restraints, and I think we're all aware of budget restraints. One of the questions I would ask the Greenhill ladies, and I appreciate that you can only talk about your school, but it seems to me that there needs to be some kind of requirement for schools to provide these services, because one of the easy things to do in times of hardship is cut the soft budget, emotional support, that kind of thing. And those sort of things are the first to go, which means that you are left with a gap. And I think that unless there is a requirement for schools to provide these things, the support for the learners that you talk about is always going to be very vulnerable. And I just feel that I wonder what you think about making it a requirement, compulsory, to provide these kind of services in the school. Would that work in your model?
Excuse me, can I just add to that? I don't need the mic, I think I got a louder voice actually. I part of that question actually is I can see a couple of colleagues that I work with in my group, so I work for a mental health charity called Havel, which at the moment is for adult services in the third sector, but we are starting to look and work and do consultations with Welsh Government on younger people. Now, a lot of us in the professional field, and hopefully more and more in the community, we should be aware that there is a new Social Care Wellbeing Act coming out, and in that safeguarding is definitely heightened. And part of my question to this lady is, how is that influencing what schools should be doing across Wales, not just Pembrokeshire, in raising these standards anyway?
And they are very valid points, and yes, anything that could help young people as schools we would all welcome, whether that be legislation. But that is not a decision I as head can make, obviously. As far as I'm aware, every single school across Wales has a safeguarding agenda, and we are, as a school, extremely grateful where we can get support from those external agencies. And the Act is new. The Act is still, the Wellbeing Act is still extremely new. And I think there are a number of facets that need to be hammered out at county, Wales level, as well as school level. In some respects, it's still bedding down. And there are a lot of discussions. And I hope that groups like this might support in driving that discussion as to what well-being for young people looks like across Wales. These kinds of meetings can only be beneficial if they actually lead to something concrete as a result, because, you know, as you know, we can talk and talk, but we have to then actually do something as well.
There's another online question. I'm going to ask for someone to answer it quite quickly. The high schools in Pembrokeshire, do they share techniques and methods about handling students who are vulnerable to mental health?
That lady's had her hand up for ages and she hasn't been asked to speak yet.
Do you want to actually ask your question now? And can I ask not to shout out? We will get to everyone.
Thank you. I was just wondering, in school you've got all these, you've got counsellors. I was just wondering, what do you have outside of school where a child can go to feel safe when they're not in their family, where they feel safe?
Maybe that's something that Is there anything outside of schools for children?
There is a young people's counselling service that operates in Pembrokeshire, and I think in the main it is referrals, self-referrals and perhaps youth worker referrals. I'm not quite sure, but I could find out for you. Okay.
This lady who is
I just like to
very
say,
wants to talk. Yeah.
I just like to say that in the parish of Pembroke, I am the safeguarding officer for the churches, the 3 churches in Pembroke. My number is on the back of our newsletter every week. So we do have a safeguarding of children in our church.
And I'd like to ask you, do you think that, what do you think of signposting to your service? I mean, is there a lot of signposting towards your service at the moment?
Well, it's known, because it's on the back of our newsletter each week, that I am safeguarding.
And how do you get that around the county?
Well, no, I'm talking about parish of Pembroke.
Oh, right, okay. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to draw it back to the question, and we might take a break actually in about 5 minutes, but I'd like to bring in about the sandy bears, because obviously this is a big issue at the moment. I'd just like to ask the panel, how do you think the closure of sandy bears will affect bereavement services and your ability to deal with bereavements for children who are bereaved in the county? Young people, does Pembrokeshire College want to come in here or not?
No, it's budget cuts are talking about, I mean,
Sorry?
but we're talking about budget cuts as much as anything else.
Sorry, I can't keep the microphone on.
Budget cuts is the topic we're talking about now, wouldn't we?
Yeah, so I brought about sandy bears.
That is obviously part of it, yes. Budget cuts, unfortunately, are with us to stay, as you know, for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm a grandparent of 2 autistic children, one in Pembrokeshire, one in Pembrokeshire. And they're both excellent services where you can actually access it. I think in Pembrokeshire, the daughter had 7 different agencies of various names. Gillingham was one more. You think to save money, perhaps these things could be streamlined, that people could be actually less means more, if you like. Do we need 7 agencies to get to a social worker? Could it not be standardized?
So to create one then hub, is that what you're talking about?
1 or 2, but I think the daughter went through 7 to get to where she is now, with not quite a diagnosis. Getting on the boy says it was 9. It's just bewildering. These people all should be working more closely together and cut out some of this.
Yeah. Does anyone want to comment on that on the panel? No? I think I'm in agreement. Yeah.
I think Tony's right in what he's saying. There is a, I think, 6-year waiting list in Pembrokeshire.
It was 4 to 6.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's because there is a paediatrician, Dr. Mowers, that they're based at Bush. Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. I would like to raise the sandy bears issue, and then I will come to this gentleman here. Is the sandy bears service going to affect the schools or external services, third sector services in any way in dealing with specialist care around bereavement?
Whenever you lose a service, it does impact. We've had a lot of support from sandy bears, but as the gentleman in the audience said, we are all having to exist within limited budgets, and some things will go as a result of those budgets. It's always a huge disappointment to us as a school and a concern when any kind of service goes, whether that's sandy bears, whether it's counsellors. The more we can do as a community, as a county, as a school, to meet young people's needs, as individual and diverse as they are, then the better our young people are. It's back to what I said earlier on, it's a continual juggling act to actually make sure that with the resources you have, you can meet those individual and complex needs.
Okay, I think we're going to take a short 5 to 10 minute break here so that we can have a bit of an informal chat. You can think about what you want to ask in the next half, maybe have a cup of tea. So thank you very, very much. I'll start again and try to do half an hour to 45 minutes. What we're going to do is try to open it up to the floor more. So encourage you to ask more questions and comments. That's the feedback we've just got. So you'll have to run around a bit more. Is there any questions? Start? Or comments, rather? It's this lady at the front and then the gentleman at the back. And then the lady over right at the back over there. Oh, that wasn't a question. that was yours. Yeah.
It's really a comment, really, in that we're extremely grateful for everybody who's come today. Unfortunately, we haven't quite got the answers we've required because as parents and grandparents of a high-functioning daughter with autism, the doors to any mental health services are slammed shut. And really, as Pembrokeshire, we need to move forward because it's us as parents who are fighting, floundering, and struggling.
If I can just add to what Matthew said in opening this second session, that please, we really do value all the comments, all the information that you are giving us today. And as a panel and as professionals who are also in the audience today, I can assure you that we will take those back to the appropriate agencies and to the appropriate boards where hopefully those comments will be fed back in and we can then work on those as professionals. So please be assured we are taking very, very seriously anything that you raise with us today, both in terms of the panel and also professionals within the room.
And I'd also like to add to that, this session, we're recording it, obviously live streaming it, and it will be transcribed and there will be a summary produced which will go to all stakeholders and everyone that has put their email and contact details down at the back of the room. Okay, and then if we go to the gentleman then there, thank you.
Yes. Could I ask, of the 5 of you there now? The 5 of you there now, right? There's 4 to each side. How long have you known that you was going to be on that panel today?
We were notified a day and a half ago that we were going to be on this panel. We're invited to talk in terms of mental health in Pembrokeshire and to offer our support. And we're talking specifically about Greenhill here because we come from a Greenhill background. We're not here to promote Greenhill. And I understand that some of you are frustrated that there are other schools not here. We're simply here to talk about what we do as a school and to offer support.
Thank you very much. What about the other 2 ladies?
As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm here to represent Pembrokeshire College and the FE interest. And I was aware yesterday that I was on.
Now, this is not fair, right? This now is something that is ridiculous. You actually ask yourselves, be put in that position, right? I think is scandalous. We've got people we are paying 60,000 to 70,000 pounds a year in Harvard West and other areas that should be here. Now, I honestly think I thank you very much for coming, but honestly, it's not what we expected.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I really do extend the thanks to everyone who has come on the panel and taken their time out. We really do appreciate it. As I said, we appreciate that these may not be the people who can answer the specific questions that you want to raise, which is why we have created the feedback form, so that we as a group can use your stories and your questions and put them to the right people who couldn't be here today. We did contact, I would say, almost every stakeholder in Pembrokeshire, Hoover Health Board, the county councillors, the local authority, and invited them to attend. I appreciate when that it's been short notice, but there was a demand for this sort of community event. So we've done the best we could, really. Thank you.
Can I just say that short notice, it was, they have had this since the 19th of May. Okay, so it's not like we didn't start this, it was 19th of May that we started this, so it is.
Emails did go out earlier and then we have followed up. The panel are completely right when they say they have been roped in at the last minute. We obviously want to invite representatives from other institutions, but thankfully these lovely people have stepped into the role. Thanks.
On that subject then, I think, would I be right, can I ask the panel members, do they all share the view that actually there are people better placed to answer questions? Would that be a fair question to ask? Because the problem is, there are a lot of people here today, there are a lot of people who are actually interested in this on Facebook and Twitter and what have you, and are watching, hence the live streaming. And we're very grateful for people coming at the last minute, but I think if, you know, do people on the panel feel that in fact there are people better placed to answer the questions that are being asked? And is there a feeling that a letter of protest, some kind of measure of assertion from us to the people who failed to attend, and particularly those who said they were coming, pulled out at the last minute? Because as the people of Pembrokeshire, we have a right to have answers from the people who are theoretically representing us. And I, you know, I think it would be good if we could, as a result of this today, put forward our views to those people who have failed to attend. I'm not sure if that was a question.
Yeah, thanks. Can we go to this lady who's had her hand up for quite a while at the back, and then we'll have the panel, if they've made a note, to answer that question. No, thank you for the comment and the question.
Really, I just want to ask, who takes over the role of Sandy Bears? Bit of a backstep, but it's not clear to me. So could you help me on that one, please?
Yeah, we'll answer the first question if you want to repeat. Do you want?
Going back, and I think it probably answers possibly both questions, but what is important that all of the feedback, all of the comments, all of the suggestions, all of the improvements, all of the information, case studies, anything you want to raise today, we will ensure that those are fed back to the appropriate body, to the appropriate organisation, and that there is feedback from them. So I think to hopefully, you know, answer your question directly, which I would want to do, it's to make sure that all that is said today is taken back to the appropriate agencies and to allow them through their processes to respond and to answer questions. And also there are boards, there are mechanisms where all of these things will be discussed, and it's important those professionals who want to know and to share with you, so we can assure you that that will happen.
Going back to the Sandy Bears question, I suppose from where I am, my understanding of it is that Sandy Bears is closing, and the function of the Sandy Bears in terms of the bereavement services are going to be taken over by emotional learning support assistants in the school. I suppose one of the areas that I would personally like to know is what sort of training are those people going to be undertaking in terms of their qualification at entrance level, who is going to provide the training and ongoing overview of that service?
I don't have the specifics on that one. I know that, again, and I understand your frustration that the only examples we can give are those from Greenhill School. For that, I do apologise. I understand how annoying it must be for you. We've embarked on ELSA training, as it's called, with our learning support team. It is a comprehensive programme. It's not simply one-off training. They are intense days and they are staggered across a period of time. I'm not 100% certain who provides the training, no. But it is something in which we're investing. Susanna, have you got the answer? Right. Yeah.
I'm here representing Pembroke Community School and I am a trained ELSA. I'm about to finish my 2-year course, 6 days of training, and then we work with the educational psychologists who have run the ELSA training for the 2 years, and we have mentoring sessions for them for the 2nd year. So I'm just about to finish that. We in our school have 2 ELSAs. The other ELSA is also a trained counsellor, and she has worked very closely with Sandy Bears and will carry on Sandy Bears' work within our school. It's a very, sorry.
Well, I mean, you know, in all fairness, last year they had a specialist band 7 health visitor paid for by the trust member in this care. Can you withdraw quite a lot of money because
I believe they are.
you know, where's the country it's actually your role.
Yes, this is within my role. I am a higher level teaching assistant at the school and also work as assistant to the inclusion manager. So it's part of my role. So we are paid for by the school. Our training was free from the local authority, I believe, with the educational psychologist, and it's now in its 2nd term and it's rolling out to more schools.
One thing I'd like to ask you, Bran, is that funding then from the local authority, is that just a one-off grant or is that an ongoing line of funding that will continue? Because obviously academia changes, safeguarding procedures changed, as we've already mentioned. Is that going to be then ongoing training?
The training is certainly ongoing. I know the first cohort of which I was as one was free. I now think there is a small charge to schools that they have to pay for the training.
I suppose then for me the question would be I'm sorry to keep coming back to you, but how is the school? How is the school then? Obviously, because you are being stretched, going to provide that training. I mean, is that just something you're going to have to stretch to, or where are you going to find the money? Is that something that we could do? We could do then as a community to raise money for that training.
Anything the community does to raise money for schools is more than welcome in any context. It's something in which all schools are investing. ELSA is a fairly new programme. The LSAs who go through the ELSA training in our structure, because we've restructured our learning support team, there is a salary uplift that goes with it because it is above and beyond the work of a normal LSA. They are working more closely with vulnerable and challenging pupils. So I hope you get the same. But as far as I'm aware, yes, it is rolling out across. When you say a small cost, it is a small cost compared to what the training could have cost us. It is perfectly viable. And yes, if you want to raise money for ELSA training, then that would be fantastic.
It's something we could definitely have a discussion about. If we go to this lady, or actually, do you mind? Is that okay? If we go to this lady at the back and then down to this lady then.
My question, my question is obviously it's more to the Greenhill School. Can you just answer me what is the policies for your counselling in your school? How did the children actually get to see yourselves, and can they see you directly there and then? Do they have a book appointment?
I can talk to you a little bit about that, and again this is reflecting on our own policy and it may differ to other schools. But our pupils have the opportunity to self-refer. They don't have to come through a member of staff at all. They can visit the counsellor and ask for an appointment. They know the set days when the counsellor is available. There's a notice on the door.
There's not one there on site?
Not 5 days a week, no. They know the days. We can contact a counsellor, but there are set days that they can self-refer. It can also come from conversations with pupils where we feel that they may benefit from counselling support, so we can refer on. Any member of staff can refer on, so it could be a form tutor, it could be a mentor, it could be a classroom teacher, head of year. It doesn't matter in terms of the position within the school. If we feel it's necessary and a child will benefit, then we can recommend the counselling service.
Right, okay. The only reason why I ask is because I've had quite a lot of children inboxing me, Facebooking me. I don't know if you know who I actually am. I'm Derek's mum, who took his life back in 2013. But the reason why I'm asking this as well is because it's fantastic that the school, the younger schools are doing it now, because I'm praying that it's actually going to get the children to start opening up a little bit more. However, what I want to see within high schools is the children around teenage years to be able to spot the signs of a child going to self-harm, going to go and commit suicide. Because on both occasions, the last one gone and Derek, their friends were aware of it. They knew what the child was going to go and do, but because of friends and trust, they wouldn't disclose what their friends were going to do. So starting them from such an early age to be able to open up and see when your friend really does need help, even though they're saying they don't. These kids need to be taught that if you're worried, you go and see an appropriate adult to get it sorted out before it's too late. Like Pembroke School, that is fantastic. It's something we've been looking for a long time. And the children won't go to the counsellors in the school because they feel it's a sign of weakness. I know the DOC school, I've been informed that you have to book an appointment there and you could take anything up to 3 weeks to see a counsellor. But if a child is in desperate need, there and then, who's that child going to go to? In school, it's not except you go tap on the door and hope that somebody can get a counsellor within half hour, an hour. By that time, it may be too late. So teaching the children the signs that your friend may go and do this, I personally think is the best step forward for these teenage kids. And if it's being implemented in primary schools, then hopefully by the time they get to high school, they should know if a friend is really in need. Yep.
And we take all of your comments on board, and part of that is educating them around the risks presenting and the symptoms of that. We have had instances where children have come forward and raised concerns. In fact, we've had a number of instances where children have come forward and raised concerns for their peers, concerns about conversations. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, social media plays a huge part.
Yes.
And lots of what goes on happens outside of schools and happens, when we're not around.
Yeah.
Where possible, we make ourselves available and we identify sources of help within the school. As I said, the counsellor isn't always there, and you're right, there is a waiting list for counselling. But where we see an immediate need, pupils are prioritised. Okay? So if we've got an immediate need and a situation where we are greatly concerned about the well-being of a child, measures will be put in place to support that child there and then. But you're right in terms of, people's not always coming forward and asking for help, and us relying on the friendship group.
Do you think the schools would consider suicide awareness courses for the children? The reason
it's something we've debated.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, when you're talking to your groups and groups of pupils, you have to, as a professional, balance the awareness raising that will do against meeting the needs. So what we try and do here at Green Hill, we do try and focus. A lot of the assemblies that we do about safeguarding is what being a good friend is about. And being a good friend isn't always about keeping a secret. Sometimes to be a good friend, you actually have to share with somebody what your friend is saying and what your concerns are. And even though it's difficult, because as far as young people are concerned, they've got all the answers, and anybody over the age of 21 knows nothing. It is a culture you need to produce in a school. That is, being a friend doesn't always mean you keep everything secret. And it's quite hard when you do, well actually yes, a good friend is somebody you can trust, but equally a good friend is somebody who might go behind your back and tell the secret. And it's a very, very difficult balance to achieve with adolescents, as you know. But it is something we try and do. And I think one way of tackling it these days is looking at how we could possibly use social media, because that does seem to be the communication forum in which adolescents seem to put their trust rather than talking to adults these days. And that might be worth, exploring as a group possibly. If we could do.
Can I ask, if you actually had anything within your school where you've got these self-harm groups of children, anywhere between 6 and 15 children, all meeting up self-harming?
Yes.
How do we go about that?
It is difficult. I mean, we know from personal and professional experience, it is extremely difficult. And in some respects, that's sounding derogatory to young people, it does go in peaks and troughs. And once a social group do start, it does tend to be a kind of peer activity. It's not peer pressure, it's a peer activity. You do get groups. But it does pass. It does pass. And all we can do as adults is be very aware, look for the signs of the child who is wearing their sweatshirt on a very hot day. Why haven't you taken that sweatshirt off? That needs to be a quiet little conversation. It's hot in this room. You take the sweatshirt off. If there's reluctance, then you have to drill down and not cut that conversation. Where you notice early marks, again, it's that conversation, and what staff would do, they would flag it up to KHR or the head of year. It is difficult because it is, 20 years ago, it isn't something we would have talked about, but it is a culture shift now. And it is very difficult for parents because when you speak to parents, it's what do we do? There is no real answer. Nobody has yet found the answer to what it does. All we can say to parents who experience it is that it does pass. It is a phase. Unfortunately, it's a phase that some take to an extreme.
Yeah,
those are, yes, I know, and that is the problem. It is very difficult, and my condolences for the loss of Derek. It is a dreadful situation to be in. But all we can do as adults together is keep working together, sharing what we can do, sharing what is out there, and trying to do our best for the young people of Pembrokeshire and South Wales.
The other thing I'd add to that is that we have your pupils for a short period of every day, and it's just an awareness at home, that some of these things, most of these things actually go on at home behind bedroom doors, and to make sure that they're relatively safe, at home, and they haven't got access to some of the things that they're using. It's a really difficult situation, really sensitive information to broach with children as well. And where you're concerned, to seek help from GPs, seek help from medically trained staff, and to advise schools. If the
children aren't willing to go and see a GP or a counsellor, then the parents have to try, because they say, well, I don't want to see a counsellor, okay.
And that's something that we deal with day in, day out.
It's really difficult.
It's really difficult.
Can I get the lady at the back there? Sorry. The lady at the back, and then the two ladies at the front.
Thank you. I just needed a little clarification. Is the training that you have, is it 6 days or 2 years? It wasn't clear to me.
We have 6 days spread out over the first year, and then we have term meetings in the second year with the educational psychologists for mentoring, taking back any problems that we have that we need to deal with, and also for our own well-being, we speak to the insights.
Thank you, but your training is in actual fact 6 days.
6 days, spread out over a year. It's very comprehensive, and I can tell you exactly what it covers.
No, if there's not time now, that's fine if you want to move on. I just needed that clarification.
Thank you. Can we have these two ladies down here who've got a question, and then that lady in the green? We'll take 4, and then we'll have to round it up then. So those two ladies, the lady in the green and the lady at the back.
Yeah.
You were talking about that children don't want to approach adults to talk about any problems that they may have. And I know when I was in Greenhill, they had the CHIPS program.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing? Is that still something where children can approach other people's in a more personal level?
We haven't got CHIPS as such, but part of the Welsh Back qualification, which pupils do now at Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5, there is a community element. So what we're developing is, I suppose, a kind of a peer mentor scheme, where we've got older pupils working with younger pupils, not specifically mentoring, but working with them. And from that, that kind of openness and confidence, where a child doesn't particularly want to go to an adult, but they have got a slightly older pupil in which they can share, and they will then bring that through. So that is developing to replace CHIPS.
Hi. So I never went to Greenhill or anything like that. I went to Ysgol Preseli. And I also recently just finished in Pembrokeshire College. When I went through similar things of, feeling really down and depressed, and there was always a feeling like I could go to the counsellors, and it was always a point of like I couldn't actually get there. There was always an appointment or something in the time that I really needed to talk to someone. There was no one there. So you talked earlier about using something called like the bully button on a website, or possibly using social media. Do you think that's possibly something that we could invest time in? Because you could perhaps use it sort of like a text line with a mobile, or use some kind of like online chat forum or something with children or teenagers.
I think that would be, if that could be developed, I think that would be very useful, because it is a forum that young people use much more readily than they at the present time. So if somebody wants to go ahead and put that sort of thing together, I think the young people, rather than have them rather a Luddite on that time, but if the young people involved could start developing that kind of thing, it would be much more relevant for the young people with their input. Yeah.
I think that's a really, really helpful suggestion, and I think we'd be very happy to take that back to the Junior Safeguarding Board, so that the young people can own that and work that through. And if you'd like to provide us with your details, we're happy for you to go along to that forum and talk to them.
Brilliant, thank you, that lady there.
Just a couple of points to raise. First of all, with regard to the ELSA programme, I take it that is optional for each school. They choose whether or not they want to go along that course. Is that correct? Yes. Because I think that's one of the problems, is some schools will and some schools won't.
And it's going to be within your budget, am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is a problem, of course, is that if it's a 2-year training course, anyone who starts now, it's 2 years further down the line, and that also, I think, is an issue. The other thing I would take, I have a point to raise with regard to awareness amongst teenagers of the issue of suicide. And I think it's very, very helpful for Derek's mum to be here, and we appreciate what you're saying. One of the things I am very clear about, and I don't agree with the panel, I'm sorry, but by raising, I know you said there was a concern about how you deal with those issues, and if you raise it, you perhaps make children more aware of things. Well, I understand that. However, when a child commits suicide in school, I can tell you as a matter of fact, all 1,300 or whatever children become absolutely, totally aware. And I would have thought that the issue should be around managing issues safely, talking about things safely, and being aware in order to take away some of the heat from the situation. I think simply burying your head in the sand and saying, we can't talk about it because it's difficult, isn't really, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but it isn't helpful. It's very important that it isn't dealt with like that, which is another thing that this forum can actually raise awareness and help in those issues.
And just adding on to that, one of the things that I'd like to know, I don't know if necessarily we've got the panel that can answer this, but is if there is that crisis, what if there's no community groups because there's cuts of funding, if there's no external service because all the services are being provided through the ELSA strategy, and there's also, I understand, being cuts to counselling and the ability for students to access the counselling, what external services or emergency services can be brought in for students who have experienced or been touched by suicide to access during that point of crisis. So, is that?
Yeah. In the coffee break, these were conversations I was having with some individuals, and I have said that as a group of heads, I think it's something we could discuss, because there are clearly different strategies and different approaches, and it might help everyone, you know, to have a look at maybe kind of a Pembrokeshire protocol in looking at how we as a county raise awareness, how we as a county support young people, and how we as a county support communities and families if the worst does happen, because there does seem to be a disparity in that as well. So I think it is something that a group like this can work with schools, and schools could work with the community to maybe explore that kind of approach.
We really have, we have to pick, two more questions, because I did promise. Do you want to ask a question about 2 more questions, and then we'll have to have an informal chat afterwards? Thank you.
As a parent of somebody I've lost a child through suicide, at the time I didn't know, I thought it was fine, I didn't know who to contact. As a school, would you be interested in handing out informational leaflets to parents for children to take home, which we could do?
That's the kind of thing I'm referring to.
Yeah.
If we had a Pembrokeshire South Wales protocol, I think that would be useful.
Would you at school administer them, give them out to parents?
I think, and that's why I think it needs to be a county-wide protocol, because if one school suddenly starts doing that, it might be different to the information that somebody in North Pembrokeshire gave out. And so I think that's, it's something we do need to look at possibly as community and schools, putting something together by working with the health boards, local authorities, in pulling together that information for parents and students. Who is out there? Who can you turn to? Who's available for schools? Who's available for parents? Who's available for pupils? And that it links to the junior safeguarding board can look at some kind of app or media, a social media site. Then, in putting it together, I think that would be beneficial for everyone in our community. So I'm agreeing with you, but it needs to be in a structured format, is what I'm saying.
The council have offered an app. The council, the only thing the council have offered is an app for children's phones where they could contact the childline directly. Giving out leaflets and things like that, I don't think, from previous experience, every time I go to the council for help in regards to Des's cabin, they slam it down. They told me community first are not allowed to help. The home health are not allowed to help. They are my community. That is my community hub. So why, when I go there for support, they say, well, I'm sorry, if you help this group, that is a suicidal awareness group for counselling for children, don't help them, otherwise you're going to lose your shot. How do we get from that then?
That's the question.
Exactly, I'm sorry to put that on
No,
but I didn't want to get it out there.
Because and it must be very painful and very difficult for you to have to deal with that as a mum. And that's why I think possibly as a group we need to look at a kind of protocol so that you don't have to go through that difficulty, you don't have to go through that pain every time you want to do something. And if we have a kind of a Pembrokeshire protocol that is there, not just so much handing out leaflets, but an information source that is there for everybody, I think that can only benefit parents and the community and the young people. So, as Greenhill School, we support you in that, and it's something I will take back to other heads and see if we can work with other agencies to put together. Okay.
One last question, thank you.
You talked about, if you can hear me, can you? Yeah. You talked about, like 20 years ago, this was not really thought of as such. And I get the feeling that our main problem is that our schools are too large, that we are not, when I was in school, I was an individual person. I was known by my teachers, by name. You don't know, you can't know all the pupils these days. And I feel that is one of the major problems where we're getting all this from. Because some children, they just leave us in haystacks. they're not, I'll just speak openly. They're not part of the the basis of that school. I think smaller schools would help. But one of the main things is training. I just go on to a little subject that I've had in smoking, right? And I needed somebody to talk to. I know this has nothing to do with what you're saying, but there was a helpline on the telephone which I picked up and I spoke to, and I asked a few questions, and I thought, hang on, you don't know what you're talking about. And I do think that we need to use the people who have the experience, who've gone through the experience, to help others to learn about it. It's not no one going to these training classes where the people are just taking it out of the book. You've got to be experienced. Yeah, you've got to know the feelings of what is going on, and I think the training is most important that we utilise those who have been there, right? And I think so. My help, I just said, sorry, you can't help me. I know more myself. Are you with me?
And I agree with you. I think also bringing maybe the students as well, because obviously the students need to filter into this conversation. We're going to finish there. Can I say a huge thank you to our panel, Maxine Thomas, Hayley Wood, Sharon Swales, and Janet Kingston. Can I have a round of applause? I also say a huge thank you to the volunteers here and the members of the group. There's too many to name right now, and also to Cybercure for live streaming and really helping out with the media side of things. And also a huge thank you to you for coming and attending. This all will be fed back, and you'll hear from us shortly, I'm sure. Thanks very much.